Hey everyone, you're listening to Party Time, My Golf Story with Kevin Walsh and whatever special guest he has today. You can check me out on episode 9 of the podcast. Today I'm wearing Grayson clothes while I'm out practicing because I believe in look good, play good. And follow me on Instagram, Sophia Warren Golf, and hope you enjoy the rest of the show.
It's Party Time, My Golf Story, brought to you by Party Drinks. Classically designed golf drinks for golfers by golfers. And the golf real estate pros Gene Walsh and Vince Vizzacaro. For your Southwest Florida real estate needs, check them out at suncoastdreams.com. Now here's your host, Kevin Walsh.
Hey everybody, welcome to the program. Kevin Walsh here. We have a little different background here. Usually I'm up in my daughter's room and we have a bookcase full of parties in the background. Now I'm in the home office. Finally been cleaned out. It's my space. Love it. Hope you love it as well. Brent Grant is our guest today. Brent has played on the PGA Tour. He has been on 3 seasons on the Korn Ferry Tour. He has been around. He's from Hawaii, which is why I really like him, because I once lived in Hawaii. One of my neighbors here at Lakewood Ranch, where this podcast broadcasts from, is from Hawaii. So we're going to teach you a little bit of learn how for talk pigeon. Brent is going to interpret what that means, the slang, the island slang and everything. And his life story is impossibly interesting because he is exactly what we were looking for when we started the podcast. We wanted the dreamers who were chasing the dream. He has had the dream. He has lost the dream. He's trying to get the dream back. So his story is great. He's very direct, straightforward, down home, all the above. You're going to love this conversation with Brent Grant. Hey, before we go any further, if you haven't subscribed to the podcast, would you please do so? Because that matters to the algorithms, the nerds at YouTube, Spotify, and Apple. And it also makes a difference to our podcast sponsors. Party Drinks is the title sponsor of this broadcast. If you don't have Party at your golf course, get in touch with the professional staff, the beverage staff, and say, look, we're tired of the hard seltzers. We're tired of all this crap that we're trying to pretend tastes great. Yeah, we're getting our buzz, but it doesn't taste that great. You can have it all with Party. And Paradise Craft Distributors is the exclusive distributor of Party drinks in the state of Florida. If real estate is in your plans, no better place than Lakewood National Golf Club, where there are some vacancies, and no better team than the Golf Real Estate Pros at suncoastdreams.com. Gene Walsh, Vince Vizzacaro, and Samantha Walsh. They'll get you all taken care of. We're going to talk about Lakewood National Golf Club on this podcast because Brent played in the Korn Ferry Tour event here a couple of years ago. That's when we first met. And finally, we're reconnecting after that. suncoastdreams.com. And if all that golf has got you tired out, no better place than Violet Spot in downtown Sarasota to get you settled. Brent Grant, how's it, brother? Got time? Got about 20, 30 minutes for talk story with your favorite Holly boy, yeah?
You know that. I'm ready.
You know exactly what I just said there. But for the Hawaii challenge and the pigeon challenge, what exactly did I just say to you or ask of you?
Well, you basically beat around the bush and asking me if I had a little bit of time.
Exactly.
But it's a long-winded way.
To talk story. So talk story in pigeon means shooting the shit, like talking, just having a chat. But that's how you say it, right?
100%.
All right. So where are you joining us from, Brad?
Currently Murrieta, California.
Oh, but home is where?
I live in Mesa, Arizona.
Okay. What's going on in California versus Mesa? What's happening in life right now?
Cal State Open. So it's here at Bear Creek Golf Club. They've hosted a number of them. Also a number of Stage 2 Q schools, Stage 1 Q school. Members like, myself got through here once or twice. Siwoo Kim, Cameron Champ, Syed Thagala, all have passed through this golf course to get to the PGA Tour. And since I'm starting over again, we're right back pretty much where it all started.
That is cool. All right. So you got to do what you have to do. We're going to get to where you got to the PGA Tour, the time on the Korn Ferry Tour, and the struggle back. But home for you is where? Where are you playing and practicing out of right now?
TPC Scottsdale. So they take a really, really good, take really good care of us there. Anybody that has Corn Ferry status or above is pretty much got free reign. They've been super welcoming to me, and really been able to work on my game there. And it's about 30 minutes north of where I am in Mesa. And I just recently moved out there from Buckeye, which is on the west side. So now I'm on the east side. And we're hopefully going to join a club here pretty soon. But golf in Arizona is not exactly the easiest, most accessible thing, I'll say.
Well, you would know better than anybody else when I think of it, but help me to understand what I don't know. When I think of the Scottsdale, Phoenix area, I almost think of Jupiter West. Am I right or not quite there?
No, yeah. I mean, I would say that there's definitely more of a elite presence in Jupiter. Obviously, you have golf courses that built for Jordan. Jack's got courses out there. Justin Thomas, Tiger. There are huge names that have built their own golf courses, and in Scottsdale, it's not necessarily the same thing. I mean, obviously, you've got great private clubs, but they're generally not. They're not owned or built by any big names in golf. So while you do have a ton of elite players that have homes here, Jupiter is definitely more of an all year round kind of thing. I'm sure there's snowbirds, but there's nowhere near as many snowbirds as there are here. So a little bit different. Like, for example, Jerry Kelly has a house in Paradise Valley. He goes back up to Wisconsin every year. So he's half and half.
What's Jerry like? I always wondered about him. And hell of a player. Seems like a grinder. Kind of seems like a hard ass, but I don't know him. I take it you do?
Yeah, no, we've spent a ton of time together. I've spent a lot of time with him and his wife and his son. Phenomenal people. Actually, my wife and I spent New Year's with them in 2022. Jerry's been an amazing friend, super supportive, and just you're all around just good dude. I mean, he's from Wisconsin. He's a good old boy, but he's definitely of the generation where, listen, it's hard work or nothing. And those are the type of people that you can learn the most from, because they failed the most. And but now that they've succeeded, it also means that they've gotten up the most. So those are generally the guys that I would I'm definitely honored to know and to consider myself in that club.
Yeah, that's cool. It's helpful to know people that have been down that road. They know the struggle. You certainly know the struggle. I want to get into that in a little bit. But you were primarily raised in Hawaii, which is where our connection comes in. What was it like growing up in Hawaii?
Oh, it was great. I mean, obviously, you have different. To say that it's a different culture is an understatement, but it's just a completely different vibe. I was just back there for the first time in a year and a half for the Mid-Pac Open in Kailua, and I mean, it just as soon as I woke up the following morning and just saw the mountains and the ocean, and just kind of was washed by the the spirit that is that kind of lives in the islands. They call it the aloha spirit, really. So, I mean, it's God, one of God's great creations. And, we growing up there, I would say that we definitely did not appreciate it in the same way. And also, I mean, now that I'm, I didn't really spend a lot of time there as an adult. So it's different going back there now. I can appreciate it more. But obviously the golf was incredible. There were a ton of really, really good players back then. And, high level of competition for such a small, group. And, but everybody knows everybody. And every single time I go back, it's just like being home, because it is. So,
the spirit of Hawaii, the aloha spirit, when I left there, I lived there from 1995 through 1997. And as the plane was taking off and I was leaving, it was just, my heart was breaking because I'm like, oh my God.
Yep.
This is God's creation. There's nothing better. But you mentioned how good golf can be in Hawaii. When I think of Hawaii golf, I think of a couple of names. So let's just go there right away. Michelle Wee, Tad Fujikara. Any time with them?
Yeah, I spent some time with Tad. He actually was in my brother's high school class. Quick funny story, actually. My brother was getting his GED and he was sitting in the principal's office, and Tad comes in and he's arguing with, I don't know, some administrator. And this was just after he had done what he did as a young man at the Sony. And he basically said, "Don't you know who I am?" And I mean, at the time, he was literally the biggest thing in Hawaii golf. And Michelle, funny enough, also went to Moanalo High School and Punahou, actually. So she went to both, but I'm pretty sure, anyways. Could be wrong. Doesn't really matter. But I have never met Michelle. I've been on the range with her a number of times. And I obviously, I've heard tons and tons of stories about her. I haven't heard anything bad necessarily. Obviously, we would have loved to see her, kind of transcend, the whatever issues that she had, and kind of win more and kind of be more of an ambassador for the ladies game. But now that we've got, I think, 2 or 3 girls that are on the LPGA or Epson tour now, and which is absolutely amazing. But Michelle is a huge reason for that, and a lot of the girls are still very much inspired by what she did in the game.
Well, tell me this, Brent, because I remember Tom Lehman said it. Mm-hmm. And so even if you haven't played with her and you don't really know her, you were on the range with her, he said there is nothing that can prepare you for seeing her hit a golf ball, the sound of it. Did you have a little taste of that in the short time you were on the range with her?
What's funny is this was in 2017, I believe. So I had already decided to turn pro and was kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Not obsessed with how I hit the golf ball, but definitely wasn't impressed by anybody necessarily. But there was definitely, she's so much bigger than all the other girls and just so much more athletic. When she competed as an amateur with, at the Sony, this is not something that can be easily replicated. And she definitely had the capability of, that no other female had. And basically I can only think of 1 or 2 really that would have been close to her, like a Cheyenne Woods. Obviously Nellie's amazing, but Nellie isn't quite as built as Michelle was. She was tall. She was built like a swimmer. It was just so much more powerful than every other lady on the range, for sure.
Take me back to the beginning. Like when did golf start? Because I know you played other sports, but who put a club in your hand for the first time, and when did you know, like, yeah, this is kind of cool?
Yeah, I have pictures from when I was like 3 or 4 hitting balls with my eyes closed, and of course, my parents, like every other athlete's parents, the fish is this big kind of story, and they tell me how there were hours where I could close my eyes and just hit the golf ball easily. But I don't remember any of that. I have pictures, but I don't remember doing any of it. My earliest memory was probably when I was about 11 or 12 in Wisconsin, playing golf. And then when I got to Hawaii, it became more of a thing, but I was still playing baseball right up until I was about, I say freshman year of high school is probably when I really started playing more often. I had my own set of clubs, but like good set of clubs by, 15. And then, I shot 62 when I was 16, qualified for the USAM.
Whoa, stop. For reals?
Yeah, 62? I was at Navy Marine Golf Course, 62, yeah, with a double bogey on the first hole.
Oh my God.
And I bogeyed the 12th hole.
So the game kind of came easily to you? Yeah?
You could say that, yeah, for sure. It was definitely one of those things where I left baseball And, my dad dropped me off, basically the summer leading into my freshman year of high school. And then obviously the summer after, the summers after, it was basically, get dropped off at 0700, get picked up at 0700. And that was kind of my summers. And, we would play in practice quite often when he was home. And then, I was scratched well before I was 16, obviously. And like I said, I qualified for the USAM, which was a 1-spot 36-hole qualifier. Carried my bag and won. And then we were pretty good as a high school team back then. But it really wasn't until, because I didn't play any junior golf. So it really wasn't until maybe 19 or 20 when it was kind of like, okay, like I went to school for it, but it was kind of like, I didn't enjoy the school that I was at. Came back home, played for BYU Hawaii, won twice. And actually in the year of 2015 and 2016, there was not a tournament that I lost in Hawaii as an amateur, whether it be a college event or as an amateur event.
Holy smokes! You're making my head explode here. But so you knew you were good, all right? Because good,
for Hawaii, for sure,
right? But school wasn't for you. What wasn't for you? The academics. Help me out here.
Honestly, so I actually did pretty well in school from sophomore year on. Freshman year was terrible, but that's neither here nor there. But and then when I went to Oregon, so I went to community college, KCC, Kapiolani Community College, after high school to get my grades up for Oregon State. And when I went to Oregon State, I had a 3.0. I took 3 classes, had 2 A's and 1 B. And that was I guess it's technically not a trimester, but they call them quarters, but they were really, they counted the summer as the 4th quarter technically. So I went to school for basically 3 months there. But I walked on after receiving an offer to walk on from Oregon State. And basically, I enjoyed the schooling there because I wasn't traveling often, and I was in study hall for 8 hours a week, and I really busted my butt, and it and obviously it worked out. I had really, really good grades. But when I came home, when I left there in the following spring and started at BYU Hawaii in March, we were gone for 13 of the 16 weeks of the school year. So this is not, I'm at Oregon State and I travel a couple hours. This is, I'm in Hawaii and I'm traveling a whole day ahead, and then I got to travel the next day. So really a week trip turns into 10 days pretty quick. So, we were gone for 13, like I said, 13 of the 16 weeks. So my grades were terrible. And I lived an hour away from the school. So if I didn't feel like going, I just kind of didn't go. And that was when I knew that I was either going to be an athlete or a student. There wasn't really any part of me that, wanted to be an academic All-American and an All-American in college for golf. It just didn't seem feasible for someone. And I was working at the time, so I didn't really have time.
Holy smokes. So that's a lot. Brent Grant is our guest here on Party Time, My Golf Story, brought to you by Party Drinks. If you're looking for a drink alternative on the golf course and you're tired of beer or hard seltzers, try Party. If golf real estate is in your plans, nobody better than the golf real estate pros, Gene Walsh, Vince Vizicaro, and Samantha Walsh from suncoastdreams.com. And if all that golf has you tired, check out Violet Spa in downtown Sarasota. Tell me this, Alawai Golf Club, you're familiar?
I'm very familiar.
Did you get the hard ass speech from the starter? Maybe the first time you played, or multiple times you played?
The 2 or 3 times we played I played the Pub Links qual there, and obviously that was whatever. Nobody said anything. That was run by the USGA, and then we played subsequent high school matches there. So the only time I think I went there was for practice rounds, and no, never had any problem. I mean, for me it was just the idea that I kind of stayed out of the way anyways. So it's and when you get brought up on a military golf course, you don't play slow. So I never
Right.
had that
Okay.
problem.
So for those that don't know, but I'm going to tell you my story. The one time I played there, and you tell me if this sounds about right. So I was playing with my wife's boss and the Japanese American Golf Club of Honolulu. And so I get to Alawai. There's a big old brother on the first tee, and he goes, "Hey, Holly boy, you ever play Alawai?" And I'm like, "No, first time." He's like, "Oh, first time, yeah." He's like, "Let me tell you how we roll here at Alawai." He's like, 2 balls teed up at all times. You tee up, your buddy tees up. He hit, you hit. You don't talk to your friends. That's for the bar when you're done. He's like, you play ready golf. We follow you for a couple of holes. You don't got it. We take you off the golf course. Understand, Holly boy? Does that sound reasonable? Does that kind of sound like the culture that was maybe there?
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things where I would love to have seen somebody get removed from a golf course because they say that you're not allowed, even though it's a city course, which is interesting. Although I actually used to host the Hawaiian Open, which was taken over by Waialae, and it's now, formerly known as the Sony Open, because that golf tournament unfortunately has been axed, which is a whole other conversation. But I'd say the entire culture, especially back in the 90s, was definitely centered around you're the minority, we're not, we run you, you do what we say. Unfortunately for them, they kind of lost out to the Japanese and the Chinese and the Filipinos. So now the island is definitely it's actually unfortunately not run by the locals anymore.
Well, I loved it because the guy was so honest and he was so direct.
Oh, yeah.
And
sure.
So you play as a sixsome. For those that don't know, at least that was the case back in the 90s. You played in 3 hours and 40 minutes. It was ready golf. And the first couple holes it felt like whack-a-mole. But then you settled in and you just played ready golf and you were done. And I'm like, this
they don't
works.
do that anymore.
And for island time, you understand how that is. It's like there's no clock. But if there was one clock in Hawaii, it was at Alawai Golf Club, and it worked. It should be a model for everybody else. That's 100%. All.
I wish it was. It isn't anymore. I mean, there's definitely no. That golf course is the busiest golf course on planet Earth. So
yes.
There's literally nobody that has more rounds per year than Alawai Golf Club.
It's the busiest golf course in the world, and that's why they created the system. You play in a sixsome, 2 balls teed up at all times, ready golf, and they enforce it. It's defined, and if you can't handle it, get the hell out. And I loved it. And whoever was on that first day, I love that guy. Big old brother, big old moke, my kind of guy. Tell me about the Sony Open. So I would think that was your coming out party. How did you get there, and what happened when you were there?
Yeah, so I got in through what was known as the Governor's Cup. Every single year, they allowed one amateur. They had to qualify either via the point system, or in my case, I won the match play tournament, so that immediately got me in to the qualifier, which was in November. Yeah, it was in November. And so actually, when I won that, they allowed me, while I really put effort into taking care of me for like 2 months. I got to know that golf course better than anybody, played it pretty much every day. And I got there that week, was right at home, and super comfortable. I think I played 2 9-hole rounds, one of which was the front 9 with Ken Duke and Anirban Lahiri. And for a practice round for me, I don't think I could have picked 2 better guys. Anirban Lahiri is obviously on the live now, but back then he was a journeyman pro, and I think he was one of the only Indian players, actually still is one of the only Indian players to play on the PGA Tour. Super nice guy. And then obviously Ken Duke's a household name, one of the original journeymen, I would say.
Oh, and, yes.
Tell me that. Never spared any words.
Oh, yes. Hard ass, but in the best ways.
Oh, yeah.
Anirban, was he working the vape? Did he have the vape?
No, that's Kiradek Epibonrat.
Oh, my bad.
So Kiradek's the big Thai guy. Anirban is from India, but no, it's actually a funny story. He came off came off of 18, and he just, wanted to play a few holes, just kind of whack it around. Obviously, he'd played the tournament a number of times. But Ken is a grinder. So when he was there, kind of like when I say there, I mean like in the fairway with me or on the tee with me, we were talking back and forth the entire time, such that I think it was about 6 or 7 holes in, he kind of pulls me aside and basically asks me what every dad would ask their son, which is, what are you going to do? And obviously this was a question that I needed to have answered already. But because there had not really been anybody like me that had ever come from Hawaii to play professional golf on the mainland, it wasn't something that I was super encouraged to do. I mean, it really was me and my family and, a couple of the guys that were in the inner circle that were like, yeah, we think you could do it. But it was met with some pretty staunch criticism. And I mean, again, just kind of the history or the lack thereof, really, of Hawaii golfers playing on the PGA Tour. I mean, at the time, there had only been 2 Hawaii-born people that played on the PGA Tour. David Ishii is from Japan, but obviously he makes his home in Hawaii now, so they count David. But obviously Hawaii-born, it was Dean Wilson and Parker McLaughlin, and they were 15 years my senior. So they had long since kind of ended their careers by the time I was starting mine, as far as playing full time on the PGA Tour. And but Ken pulls me aside, asks me the question, and I said, I have absolutely no idea, sir, but I think I'm pretty good, and but it's not necessarily the easiest thing to do. And he said, you're right, but if you step up to every single golf shot the way that you step up to hit that driver, you will be out here in no time.
Oh my God, that must have made you
5 years later.
But just hearing him say that, a guy like him, what did that do? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so my dad brought me up on guys like him, and then all the greats from the 80s and 90s, Freddie, Nick, Nick Price, Nick Faldo, Greg Norman, Retief Goosen, Padraig Harrington, Ernie Els, all those guys are all the guys that, and obviously like Payne Stewart is a beloved guy in our family household, like he is in many others. And so Ken Duke was kind of he was the kid back then. So, for him to take the time at all, they could have just kind of brushed me aside or told me to go ahead, and I could have played by myself, and I would have never had that encouragement. But it wasn't just Mr. Duke. I mean, there were a number of players that took the time. Vijay Singh literally were on the side of the range, I think, either on Wednesday or Thursday. So either Pro-Am Day or the first round, we're on the far left side of the range underneath the tree. And I'm banging balls and he's banging balls, and he would step back and watch. I mean, he's at the time, he was the 3rd best golfer in the last 20 some odd years. I mean, there was nobody other than Tiger and Phil that had VJ's record. So, for him to do that. And then the best part about it was after day 1, he saw my mom, who they didn't talk, but he knew that she was my mom. And he went up to her and said, how'd your boy do today? And I think I shot, I don't know what it was, 68 or 69. So, but again, and then he remembered me 2 years later when I saw him at Tom Pernice Jr.'s event, he actually here at Bear Creek. And that's kind of why I say, Bear Creek is really where my professional career on the mainland got started. So VJ's good in my book.
For those that don't know VJ, I have heard he's very generous with advice and time with people.
Very much so.
And so that, and you just displayed that. And you talked about his memory a couple of years later. He checked in with you. You have a good memory too, because I met you 2 years ago. You stayed with some of my neighbors, Fred and Donna Remington, and fellow Hawaii folks. Fred owned all the Irish pubs in Honolulu, and you stayed with him, and he invited me over. I think you and Fred were indulging in some cigars. I was a little busy with my wine. And
your dog.
Yes. And so I saw you a couple of days later. I just figured you'd get lost in your golf, as like I would have been when I was competing. And I reintroduced myself to you, and you're like, Kev, I know who you are. I'm like, wait a minute. So that's a gift.
That speaks to your humility, not my memory.
Well,
But
no, but it's, maybe it's like something VJ shows that to you and you see that's the way, whatever. And then, so here we are. You and I haven't spoken in like 2 years.
Mhm.
And then you got connected with Jesus Golf, and we'll get into that. We'll get into that in a second. But so I reached out to your guy, Jesus. We'll get into that too. And you got right back to me. And so here we are. But the Hawaii connection, can you maybe explain it to the untrained what it's like if you've lived there, if you spent some time there, you kind of feel like you're in the tribe, and you just connect with people like I think we did that night.
for sure, yeah. You see it in different places. I would say that Hawaii is unique because the golf community is so small. Part of what I feel like I was tasked with actually earlier in this year and at MidPac was, after the news about the Sony Open was, how do we get professional golf back into Hawaii? And this was it was a bittersweet week because it was the first time I had been back in a year and a half. I placed second, which is fine, but I should have won the event. But then also, and obviously I had a great time, but also, the Sony got taken away. And that's where, a number of us got our starts in our career. Myself, John Oda, Sean Liu, obviously, Jerry Kelly, Fred Funk were always, mainstays at that event. And there's a number of media personnel that always go out for that event. But anyways, so it's a tight knit community. And, for me, having spent, the better part of 16 or 17 years there, it's home and it always will be. And I think that anybody that lived there and understands what the Hawaiian culture is, you have two choices in Hawaii. You either understand that it is not your home until you fully understand that it's something different, right? When you realize that it's not the mainland, then you begin to understand and treat it differently. And you're not going 75 in the highway, and you're not looking at people in the wrong way. You're not being disrespectful. And there's a bit of the culture where it's way more conservative in the idea of like, listen, there are physical realities in this world. And if a guy who's 6'5", 330 comes up to you and asks you, why are you looking at me that way? It's probably because you were looking at him. Okay.
Giving him stink eye.
Yeah. And the thing is that like, it's about mutual respect. And the thing is that you have different elements on the islands. You obviously have 150 different Asian and Polynesian and European cultures, African cultures as well, and Latino cultures as well. So it's really a true special melting pot. It's unlike any other place in the world. And when you begin to recognize that and have respect for it, your manners matter, how you present yourself matters, and all of those things don't necessarily matter here on the mainland. I mean, you see people treat wait staff differently, in the islands than you do here on the mainland. It's respect really is earned there. And if you're liked by one Polynesian, you're probably going to be liked by many. And that's definitely a special thing.
You nailed it. You absolutely nailed it. I just remember when I moved there, and one of my dear friends, Ivalani Seyu, who was one of the original Don Over showgirls in the shows in Waikiki, the luau shows, she said, "Kevin, love the islands, and the islands will love you back." And I tried to honor that like the whole time I was there, and I still try to do that. And you get it. You nailed it. You articulated that. So tell me this, Brent. When you got to the PGA Tour, was there any hello to the big time moments? Did somebody hit a shot, do something where you're like, holy smokes?
I played with, actually, I had two interesting experiences on the weekend, two different events. One was at Pebble Beach with Victor Hovland, and obviously Victor went on to win two playoff events in the FedEx Cup that year. And then I had the final round at the Canadian Open with Cameron Young. So both of these guys are about my age. And, I'd known Cameron for several years at that point. I was on the Korn Ferry Tour with him. But we're playing the final round, and we're the featured group, obviously, because Cameron, and we're on TV. Almost every single shot's on TV, and I didn't really feel the pressure because we were teeing off at 8:30 on Sunday instead of 2:30, so it really didn't matter. But we get done, and I made like a little 5-footer up the hill for birdie on 18, and we get done, and Cameron goes, "What'd you shoot?" As nobody had asked me this question before, and especially not walking off the green. And I go, "I think I shot, whatever it was, 2 or 3 under." He goes, "Damn." I go, "What?" He goes, I really wanted to get you today." And it just speaks to the level of competition that is always present underneath the surface. And it's something that I respect to this day. Cameron is on the top of my list for guys that are just rock solid. And then Victor, the thing that blew me away had nothing to do with how he struck the ball. Actually, I wasn't really impressed with how he struck the ball at all. I was impressed with his short game, and I was impressed with his attitude. The guy never, ever, not once gave up. There was never a spot where I was like, where he was dead, which there were a couple of times at Pebble where he was definitely, there's no way he's getting this up and down. And yet he did. And, and it happened multiple times. And it's just one of those things where I really got a lesson in how to control your emotions throughout the entire year. But those two rounds stand out to me the most, because it showed me that it has nothing to do with how good you are or how flashy you are. It's legitimately about your ability to grind and just to never ever give up.
Yeah, I love that about I love that, and I see that in tour pros, and I'm wondering for you, but it is a grind. There's no getting around that. Where are you right now? What status do you have? How's the state of your game?
Yeah, so the status is basically conditional Korn Ferry. So I have a number on the Korn Ferry Tour. It's not good at all. It certainly has changed a lot. My status would have gotten into events in years prior, but due to the obvious changes that have been made to knock more and more guys down to the Korn Ferry Tour level, obviously my number gets booted, which is fine. I didn't play well last year, and I didn't play well in 2024. So I by no means have the right to say that I should be playing at events. Now, that said, after last year's kind of really sporadic year playing and not playing and working and not working and so on and so forth, this year I have been blessed to be able to work on my game almost every single day. We've been backed by, like we said, the company called Chisos, which essentially has given me a bit of runway to basically get me through the year, or at least into the Q school season, where I can play, a pretty large number of events, and have a good opportunity to make my game better. Now, as far as your second question, how's my game? It's in the best shape it's ever been. I'm in the best shape I've ever been in, both all three, mentally, physically, and spiritually. And obviously, the third being the most important, Christ has changed my life. And that's really where I owe all of this. Anyways, but ultimately I've worked really hard to just get better. And it's happened not because I'm like, oh, I am getting better. I'm getting better. No, there are things that I'm physically capable of doing, that I wasn't before. And it goes all throughout the game. I'm a better driver of the ball, which is hard to believe, even though I was fourth in total driving on the PGA Tour. I'm better than I was back then. My iron play is better. My wedges are infinitely better, which was definitely on the low hanging fruit. And then my putting is infinitely better as well, which was probably the worst part of my game when I was on the PGA Tour. So throughout the last, we're going on 3 years now, since almost 3 years since I had my last start on the PGA Tour. I got worse, and then I got infinitely better. So the hope is that we continue to get better and then get through Q School, and God willing, we'll either be on the PGA Tour or Korn Ferry Tour come full time come January.
Love it. Well said. But tell me this, just be brutally honest. Have you ever hated golf where you're like, what am I doing with my life?
Yeah, actually, when I got back from Oregon State, I was actually legitimately like clinically depressed. I had lost like 25 pounds and was pale, and I mean, just a winter in Oregon will do that to you. But and I had the worst attitude ever and hated golf, and I almost quit. And literally 2 months later, I was playing for BYU Hawaii and winning tournaments. So, but there was a moment when I got off the PGA Tour where it was kind of like I was super lost and didn't really understand what had happened. It felt like I was so close, but every single time I turned around, I was finishing 30th instead of 10th or 40th instead of 20th, and it was a shot here or a shot there, and so feeling that close even back then. Looking back, I should have been that much more charged up about it. But the simple fact of the matter is I had no life balance. Like I said, spiritually, I was lost. And that, if you're spiritually lost, there's nothing you're going to be able to do to play good golf.
I'm totally with you on that. Brent Grant is our guest here on Party Time, My Golf Story, brought to you by Party Drinks. If you're looking for a drink alternative on the golf course, try Party. If golf real estate is in your plans, then get in contact with suncoastdreams.com. Gene Walsh, Vince Vizicaro, and Samantha Walsh got you covered. Great time to buy, especially in the Sarasota area, and especially at Lakewood National Golf Club, where this podcast originates from. And if all that golf has you tired, buy Lit Spa in downtown Sarasota. Terrell Hatton, just in a phone conversation, you kind of like open the bag a little bit about like him. Mm-hmm. Love the guy, love the temper. Are we seeing the real Terrell? Is it an act? What is it?
It's definitely not an act. So he legitimately is an open guy. I asked him that exact question actually in Dallas at the Byron Nelson, and because I just asked him, I said, so like, what are you doing out there? Basically, is what I asked him, and he said, it is my way of letting it go, and it was beautiful. I mean, it was eloquently said and perfectly put. And I mean, you see it in different clips and stuff like that, but he really is real. He's a legit hard on his sleeve kind of guy. And obviously, I mean, the fact that all of the controversy about Liv and you say what you will about his decision and whatnot, but the simple fact of the matter is the guy did not have to play the DP World Tour, and he certainly didn't have to compete and win, and yet he's done all of those things, even amongst all the controversy. And it means the world to him to be able to compete at the highest level. And I have an infinite amount of respect for the guys that just are real and legit. And he's one of those guys.
I love him. He should be mic'd up at all times.
Oh, 100%.
I love how he carries. I do not deserve to have my golf bag carried. I'm going to carry that. And he carries it. Exactly. It's so, oh my God, that guy's so fun. And John Rahm too. Like when he explodes, they're like the John McEnroes of professional golf. Oh, yeah. Need more of that. I'm not suggesting you go down that road, Brent, but
I don't have to. I'm good.
If you have, yeah, okay. You've got it out of your system. All right. Wrapping things up here. Tell me about Chizos and what it's done for you. You touched on it a little bit, but money's tight, like it's expensive to play pro golf with entry fees and just whatever. How has that been a game changer for you?
Yeah. I mean, first of all, being able to pay car payments and stuff like that is obviously a huge deal. All throughout last year, it was a huge struggle. I mean, there were guys that stepped up and really just gifted me and my family with a lot of help here and there. I didn't, I played in a few events, but being able to play and practice regularly was not something that I could do. So towards the end of last year, I was interviewing for jobs. I actually got offered a job for a place called Reynolds, or not Reynolds, Delta Steel. It's out of Arizona, and basically I was working with, I had a friend of mine who used to run the Outlaw Tour. He now runs Hubble Golf. Corey Powell calls me. I saw him at a tournament in the middle of the summer, and I said, "Hey man, like I need sponsors. Like this is getting real tough. Like car payments and debt and taxes and all kinds of crazy stuff from spending way too much money when I had it. But I couldn't play and I couldn't practice. So I didn't think that I was going to be able to do that in 2026. And quite frankly, as long as my family was fed and housed, I didn't really care what I was going to do. Playing golf it still doesn't matter to me. If I get to play golf, great. But it doesn't matter anyways. I trust my God to provide, which he has. And so Chisos basically approached us through two different people. So Chisos works with Donnie Donaldson, who used to run Kerry Golf. Kerry Golf is friends with a friend of mine, and she's kind of my manager, is my manager, Emma Jandel. Emma played on the LPGA Tour for a while, and I met Emma through Corey. So we're talking about like multiple layers of people where Chisos finds me and Emma, and we do 2 or 3 of these Zooms. We did, Emma worked tirelessly, and she worked with AI and a whole number of different things to get budgets together and really to plan out the whole year of like, this is what happens if we get this much, this is this route, Monday qualifiers and Asher tours and what happens, all of the different things. It was about a 4-week process, and they really approached us with it. And their initial plan was to, do some sort of, it was the deal was definitely different than what I had heard before. But if I could play and live, I didn't care, because I know that if I've got the runway, I will be on the PGA Tour. I mean, there's no doubt about that. I've already proven it. So essentially, that's what they've done. They've provided me with a bit of runway this year. I was able to pay off some debt. I've actually increased my credit score for the first time in a couple of years, which is kind of crazy, but funny things when you're an adult. But and then I've been able to drive and not worry about, well, if I get a flat tire, how am I going to pay for it, or how am I going to be able to pay for the gas, or am I going to be able to eat today? Things like that. You would never think that somebody who was on the PGA Tour in 2023 would be worrying about that in 2025. But when you're irresponsible and you don't play well, money goes real fast. So
yes. With
all that said, Chisos is now actually how you found them on LinkedIn was they are putting their name behind me all the way, and I'm their first player that they've done a deal with, sponsored, and they haven't asked me for a logo. They haven't asked me for. I'm not doing marketing things with them. I simply just share whatever they give me to share, but I'm not, working for them. Right. So I'm literally capable of doing whatever I want at this moment because of the faith that they've put in me. And ultimately, what it's shown me is that all I have to do is just be able to do it without thought of the financials. And I obviously praise God for that. That's him and only him. But he uses people, and Will and Emmanuel at Chisos have been, and the whole Chisos team are working to get me back to the PGA Tour. Obviously, the financial incentive is there for them as well, but it's a personal thing. I mean, if they didn't think I was capable of it, it's one thing. But if they didn't like me or think that my work ethic was there, they wouldn't do it, no matter how good I was at the game of golf.
You must feel chosen and blessed, and
very blessed.
What a godsend.
Yep.
Brent, I wish you nothing but the best. I hope you'll keep in touch.
Always. Call me anytime.
I hope you'll come back to Lakewood National, although I would rather see you skip the Suncoast, Lecom Suncoast Classic and go straight back to the big tour where you belong. But if you come back, stay with the Remingtons, and we talk story again one more time. Work for you?
Awesome. Done.
All right, brother. Really appreciated time talking story with you. Brent Grant has been our guest here on Party Time, brought to you by Party Drinks. If you're looking for a drink alternative on the golf course, try Party. If you're looking for golf real estate, nobody better than the golf real estate pros at suncoastdreams.com. Gene Walsh, Samantha Walsh, and Vince Vizzacaro, and by Lit Spa in downtown Sarasota. For Brent Grant, I'm Kevin Walsh. We'll see you again next time on Party Time, my golf story.
You've been listening to It's Party Time, My Golf Story, brought to you by Party Drinks. Classically designed golf drinks for golfers by golfers, and the golf real estate pros Gene Walsh and Vince Vizzacaro. For your Southwest Florida real estate needs, check them out at suncoastdreams.com or call 941-220-4000.